Studar Jeffries. I'm the past president of the Post Alumni Society. And I am excited to have Anne. And Anne, I'm sorry, I read your byline so often, but I don't say it out loud. How do you, is it Sacker or Saker?
No, it's Saker. Saker like
okay.
Baker, yeah.
Just like it
Yep.
sounds. Wonderful.
Yep.
So we have Anne Saker here from the Cincinnati Enquirer. I'm just going to share a brief bio of hers. And I am going to share in the chat a story that she wrote related to kind of some lessons from covering the pandemic. I think it's a really awesome take on kind of how a journalist has looked at this, and also a journalist that's very knowledgeable about health reporting. So I wanted to share that in the chat for you guys, but I will just quickly read. Anne Saker, a Columbus native, graduated from Ohio University's journalism school, go Bobcats, and launched a coast-to-coast career as a daily news writer. She was on the team at the Cincinnati Enquirer that earned the 2018 Pulitzer Prize in local reporting, and she has earned numerous honors for her investigative and narrative journalism. After graduation, Saker served a foreign correspondent internship through OU at United Press International in London. She worked for UPI in Norfolk, Virginia and Washington, D.C., Gannett News Service in Washington, the News and Observer in Raleigh, the Oregonian in Portland, and for the last 6 years for the Enquirer as a health writer. She lives in Cincinnati with her cat, who we almost got to see, but he jumped off of her lap. So welcome, Anne. And our topic today is really focusing on kind of how you keep things fresh as a beat reporter, how you kind of continue to look at those new angles and stories. I know I'm always interested in talking about how people cover things that come up year after year and make them fresh and interesting. But obviously, as a health reporter, not only are you covering, a beat that has some, continuous issues, but obviously with COVID, there's a lot of just different challenges that come with that. And how do you tell that story in new ways and tell the same story that everybody's talking about, but tell it in a different way. So I guess I had some questions ready, but I'd love to just open it up to things that you'd like to share with these guys before I get to my questions, and then we can go from there.
Okay, that would be great. I did prepare a few things that I wanted to say just to begin, and of course, this terrible lighting on this computer is such that it is, but there are a few things that I just wanted to share with everybody here. First of all, as I put this down for a moment, I want to thank you, Ryan, Abby, Malaya, Taylor, Matt, Emma, Claire, did I get everybody? As well as Tristan and Anna and Caitlin. I want to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to be with you tonight and to talk to you about our deep mutual love of journalism and of the Post, and of how we step forward into the world that seems to be changing more rapidly by the day. I am so honored to be present with you tonight, and I want to thank you for being brave enough to jump into this end of the pool because, by God, we need you. Don't be afraid. It's all out there. There is something out there for you to do here. There's work here for you to do. So do not fear that at all. So that said, when Caitlin and Anna approached me to talk to you a little bit about about tonight, they kind of tossed me the topic of keeping story ideas and local coverage fresh and relevant. So what I want to tell you about that is this. As you are beginning your careers, everything is going to be fresh and relevant, and that is the wonder that you bring to our newsrooms. We old farts have seen things 27 times. And I'm going to digress here with a story. One of my college classmates at Ohio University is a fellow by the name of Jim Heinz. He is the Associated Press's senior correspondent in Moscow. He's been there probably 20 years. Speaks Russian, speaks Swedish, he's learning Icelandic. He's like, even at OU, I knew he was going to be the one who is going to go explore the world. His passport is a thing of beauty. Um, One time, I don't know when it was, maybe 10 years ago, he happened to be in the United States on a home leave. And he came out to visit me to Portland. And we had a great time together. And we were sitting up late at night drinking some scotch. And happened to turn on the radio, and the news report was talking about a Russian submarine accident with, all hands lost, another one of these catastrophes. And I turned, and I was like, wow, submarine lost. And I turned to Jim and I said, wow, you must be sad you're not in Moscow covering this. And he took a long sip of his drink and he said, if I were there, this would be my fourth. Oh, right. So it's all a matter of perspective. Your first submarine sinking is exciting. Your fourth, not so much. So the thing that I wanted to underscore for you now as you step out into journalism at OU and journalism into the world is that what you bring is your fresh eyes. And by fresh eyes, I don't mean childish eyes or uneducated eyes. I mean that you are bringing your unique and personal self through a very youthful lens. Covering the 4th of July, it seems like the dumbest assignment in the world, right? How can you go cover yet another parade? Well, you know what? That is your job. That's the job. How do you go make the 4th of July this year a unique and interesting story? Now, I would hope that all of you being journalists would know that Joe Biden handed you a news peg on a silver platter last week. Anyone want to sort of chime in here with an answer about what was the news peg? Okay, I'll give it to you. Joe Biden said that by the 4th of July, if everyone pulls together and gets vaccinated and wears masks and stays socially distant, we can have backyard cookouts and family gatherings on the 4th of July. Now, surely you all can see that at least for the next year or two, we are all going to be writing about life after the pandemic. I hate the term new normal. I know people love it. And I know that it does describe a certain place we want to go. People talked about the new normal after 9/11. I'm going to drink my water here, so be patient with me. And I don't think there is such a thing as a new normal. I think what you get is something that feels normal, but is very different. I'm sure all of you can certainly remember in one way or another the 2008 financial crash. You were very young then, and that all touched you in a significant way, whether you were consciously aware of it or whether you were engaged in it in some way, but you knew that the adults were upset about something. And that changed your life, and it changed their life. And so once we finally got past that, we did stories at the Inquirer 2 years ago about how we have not yet recovered from the recession that resulted from the 2008 crash. So, wow, that's how this is fresh. That every day it may seem like yet another 4th of July parade, but I assure you, no matter where you go this summer on an internship or a job and you get sent to go cover the 4th of July, just look around you. Every single person you see is going to have an incredible 4th of July story. Go find the guy who's in the Uncle Sam hat on stilts, right? And gives out candy or whatever they do. That guy's got a story. It's just, to me, I've never been, I think if this is not fresh to you, if you can't develop a fresh angle, this is not the work for you. And that's okay. That's okay. And you may not discover that until you're 5 years in or 10 years in or 30 years in. Next January, I will be 40 years in. And I will tell you that every single day I come to this chair, this desk, and I tell you, there is a new thing out there for me to discover. And that's what brings me to this every day. That just today, I got a news release from the Ohio State University about, this is hard to believe, but you know those little lithium ion batteries that power everything now? They're called button batteries. And if you buy one at Kroger, you'll notice there's like a big red stripe over it saying, make sure your kid doesn't swallow this. Well, guess what? During the pandemic, there's been a 93% increase in children who have to go to ERs and have to get treated because they swallowed a lithium ion battery. And I was like, what? That is a story that we can all connect to, right? How many lithium batteries do you think you have in your house? I tried counting today. I think I've got 5. So, that's an amazing thing to think about. So that's how I keep things fresh, is to think about how to turn the crystal just a slightly different way toward the light, and it will give you something new to see. So here's what I'd like to do, gang, and thanks for all of you who've joined the call here. It's great to see you. I assure you, I could tell war stories for hours to come, and I do not want to do that. So what I would like to do is, because you're all journalists, and that's how I shall address you, I think you probably all have questions to go forward here. And so, I'd rather we have a conversation about where we're going with journalism and where you're going with your journalism. And, there's no question there's no such thing as a stupid question. I just want to underscore that for you. So I don't know how we're doing questions here, Caitlin. Do people just sort of like pop in and say, hi, I got a question, or what?
Yeah, we've just been letting people unmute. I'll watch the chat if people would prefer to chat it, but
Okay.
I'll actually start off with a question, and I
see that Matt's come on and Molly has come on here. So
yeah, we've added a few, which is awesome, and welcome, guys. I have a 2.5-year-old, so the lithium ion battery thing, that statistic is terrifying.
Yeah, did that make your hair stand on end when you heard that?
Yeah.
And it's the 2-year-olds who are doing it, Anna.
Yeah. So that's something else to kind of file away in my brain. No, it's okay. I mean, I journalism broke me as a parent. I'm afraid of everything. So
I know.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. It is. But, although I will tell you, Anna, that and I'm not saying this to be an old lady, but I found that lady journalists are hard charging until they have a baby. and then they all want to cover the family beat, which is an incredibly important beat that journalism has undervalued. And so the more of you that can cover this beat, the better we will be. But, it was always such a struggle for moms in the newsroom, because there's this macho of you got to put in 10 hours a day and, your kid needs you. So
yeah.
How are you balancing that? How do you balance that?
Well, so I work for a county board of developmental disabilities now. So
that's great.
Yeah, so I do the communications and marketing for that. Yeah, and I typically do leave it 5, which is awesome. But
that's great.
I guess one of the things that I do a lot of writing and a lot of interviewing with people with my job, and I know you obviously. And I guess one of the things that I've noticed over this last year is how, when we have had to go and do more interviews over Zoom or over the phone for safety reasons, how sometimes it's harder to find those little nuggets.
It's awful. It's awful.
And I wanted to see if you had any suggestions for these guys about, I mean, obviously safety is the most important thing, and we want everybody to, be safe and not get COVID, because you're not helping anybody if you're sick. But
right.
I wonder if there's suggestions or things that you have found that works well when we are having to do so much reporting virtually.
Yes. You have them tell you what they're looking at. Tell me about what's out your window. What's in your room? Who's in your house? What's your house look like? Get them to tell you. And oddly enough, sometimes you get a much richer picture of this space, because this person is telling you about the space rather than you processing it through your eyes. You know, you might say, like, what's your favorite book? Can you pull it off the shelf for me? What's in your wallet? What kind of car do you drive? You know, ask the kind of stuff that you would ask if you were in the room, but you're not there. So, and get them to tell you, and they'll be delighted to tell you this stuff. Everybody is thrilled when you are asking small talk questions because everybody can answer that. And here's another secret. This is a secret of the trade that I'm going to drop on you people tonight. You will remember it for your whole entire careers because it will make you successful. And that is this: never, ever ask another human being a why question. Never ask why. And why is that? When I ask you, Molly, why did you put in earplugs?
My roommate.
Yeah, you're on the defensive already, aren't you? You're like, not me, my roommate.
So awkward.
No, I didn't mean to put you, yeah, I'm not putting you on the spot, Molly, but what I'm telling you is, do you see what that does? It puts your subject, immediately there's a barrier. It could be the most inconsequential why question in the world. Like, why did you choose blue and not green? Because all of a sudden, why adds a value judgment. But if you say, what is the difference to you between the blue and the green? Oh, they'll talk about that all day long. If I say to Molly, you're still wearing corded earplugs and not AirPods. What's that? And Molly might say, oh, I hate AirPods, or, you know, they're always dropping the call or whatever. Instead of why, you know, then she's defensive. Like, why shouldn't I wear it? You know, if you can use why in your head. Why can drive you as you're doing your interviews. Why is a very important question. I'm not saying don't ever ask it of yourself. I'm just saying when you're doing an interview with somebody, when you, especially with people I call civilians, people who are not constantly in contact with reporters, like politicians, they're not civilians. You know, cops, they're not civilians. But, you know, if you're interviewing, you know, the mom who's just started a group for children with special needs, she's a civilian. She doesn't talk to reporters all the time. She doesn't know the games we play. So you don't give her a why question and put her on the defensive. You ask what questions and how questions and where questions. And you elicit tactile response that way. So I'm just saying, use why sparingly. But I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, I just decided I didn't want to ask why questions anymore because I didn't get very good answers because people were on the defensive or they were looking for my hidden agenda. If you don't ask why, I mean, you might circle back at the very end of the editing process when you're like, there's a why question you can't answer and the only one who can answer it is the subject of your story. And you're not going to put the answer in in your story. You just need to know it for yourself. Why did you kill your dog? Why? Why did you do that? And then you might get an answer that would be illuminating or not, but you wouldn't put that in the story because what is that person going to tell you? A lie, something phony. It just doesn't elicit stuff that has value to it, stuff that's useful to you. So anyway, does that help, Anna? Is that good to you? Is that helpful to you?
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you.
The other thing I would add is I had a colleague and a dear friend during my days at the News and Observer in Raleigh, North Carolina. She was born and bred North Carolina. She was born in Greensboro. She called herself a lint head because her mama and daddy worked in the textile mills, came home covered in lint every day. And she was as down to earth as they come, but she was brilliant, and she is still brilliant. You can look her up at the News and Observer, Martha Quillen, Quillin, Quillen, and she's been there for years. And she and I would have long lunches about the idiots that editors are, and why do they give us stupid ideas, and they're a bunch of jerks, and blah blah blah. And I said, Martha, how do you get through this? How do you deal with these people? And she would say, well, darling, here's what I do. I look at their stupid idea and I say, how do I turn this around and make it my game so I can win? And I thought, that is the secret of life. How do I turn this around and make it my game so I can win? Not that you're cheating, not that you're cutting corners. You are making it your game, meaning if you are a hunter and you hunt facts, then you make it into a story that you are hunting. If you are a narrative writer and you have to have a story to tell, you go looking for the story to tell. That's how you make it your game. And here's the other little component to that. You will not really know what your game is for probably, 10 years. You may think you're a politics reporter and then you discover that you really prefer covering baseball. Or you may discover that you're a reporter, but you'd really rather be editing copy and making it better. Or you're a photographer who really wants to make beautiful videos that are different and unique and that anyone's ever seen before. Or something else. And that's not gonna gel for you. The next 10 years for you are gonna be all about how do I see this place that we live in? You're maturing as adults. We're giving you all the tools and all the freedoms of adulthood now. You're not gonna have the training wheels that college basically is for people your age. We're gonna take off the training wheels at some point and send you out. So the next 10 years are gonna be about you discovering how this works for you. And if you can get your arms around that, you'll have a happy life. I promise. That's what it's all about. So that's my little chocolate drops of wisdom there. So can I? What else can I do for you?
I have a quick question. Maybe it's not a quick question. I don't know.
Hi, Matt.
Hi. Thank you for doing this, by the way. I really appreciate it.
I'm thrilled. Good to see you. Well, first of all, let me just say, I was showing the girls earlier, and Tristan, I have a Ohio University jacket. I have my Ohio University pillow that my mom made, and I have my Ohio University fleece blanket that I have on my legs that my cat is now sleeping on. So otherwise, I would show you more of it. But
Perfect.
I am fully enrobed in OU wear. So anyway,
well, thank you. I'm glad you have school spirit tonight.
You bet.
But my question is, and I am moving to a city this summer for my first ever news internship.
Cool. Where are you going?
I'm going to, well, it's virtual, but I'm not entirely sure what city yet either, but it's not going to be Athens or where I'm from, which is DC. So how do you move to a new city, whether it's in person or virtually, and then just get off the ground reporting on a place you've never been to before?
Yeah, it's very hard. And what I would suggest to you is, do you have some planning time before you go to this internship, or is this what this is?
I'll have between 6-ish weeks to a month to
before you go. Okay, that's great. That's plenty of time. So I hope you're reading this paper every day. Now? Every day?
I should start doing it. Yep. I read it intermittently, but not every day.
Okay, no, you've got to read it every day, because that's the only way you're going to get familiar with what is important to this newspaper. And if you can read all the other media that's in this region, you're going to find out what's important to them. And you're going to dive into this during the coronavirus pandemic as we're starting to come out of this. So maybe, and you're going to be there through the summer. So there's going to be summer stuff that happens in this area. There's probably a big music festival that they're going to have again, and socially distant. So think of a story to do about that. Think of a story to do around all the things that are important to this city in this period of time that you will be there. And have a story pegged for every one of those events. Your editors will love you, because you will go to them and say, here you are, and here's some art, and here's a video, and look at all these, all these headlines I've written for you, all for you a week before you need it. They will love you. Now I know, tall order, so try and do that 3 times. You don't need to do it every day. Do it 3 times. Pick 3 stories for each of those events. Pick a 4th of July story. pick a, I don't know, swimming pool story. I mean, something like that. Just pick 3 things that are interesting to you and drill down on that and have a real good idea of those 3 stories that you are going to execute while you are at this internship. And they're going to be the 3 clips you walk away from that internship at. And that's, you don't need, not every story needs to be a home run, right? Babe Ruth hit 330. Hall of Famers hit 400, right? You get one, if you get 4 out of 10, that is beautiful. So all you're trying to do is raise your batting average. Not every single story needs to be 4 square. I mean, it has to be 4 square in terms of your facts and making sure everybody's name spelled right. Here's another tip I'm going to drop on y'all. Your copy should be immaculate. I should be able to eat a 4-course meal off your copy. Everything you write, everything that leaves your hands, everything that leaves your brain should be perfect. Perfectly written, perfectly verbed, perfectly punctuated, every word spelled correctly. And I'm telling you, you do that, no matter what you write, if you commit to that as your life goal, every single human being you touch will love you, because that is a discipline of your mind. It's like making your bed every morning. It's a discipline of your mind, and committing yourself to writing English to the best of your ability is all we're called to do. So that's what I would say to you, Matt. Pick 3 stories in the reading that you do running up to your internship, so that you've got some ammunition as you walk into this. Because you're absolutely right. It's the worst feeling in the world to walk into something, new city, new experience, and know nothing. So if you have the luxury of some time to get prepped, read a Black-owned newspaper in that area. Find out what's interesting to them. Do a story about that community or the Hispanic community, if you speak Spanish, and I'm sure that you've been told a million times you should have at least one other language, preferably Spanish. I know everyone told me that in high school, and I walked away without it too. And it's like, kick myself every day. It's one of my 3 great regrets, including not practicing the piano enough when I was young.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Just hang in there. You'll be great. Just give yourself a little edge with this intention. That's all. That's all you're doing. And you stay focused on that, and nothing will distract you.
I also have a question. And also,
All
sorry
right.
about the reason I
Hi,
don't have my
Ryan
light.
Maxim. How are you? Yeah.
Doing well. How about you?
You have the angelic light beaming down from heaven on you.
I know one of the reasons I don't have my camera on all the time is because this terrible lighting.
Can you lift your camera?
Here we go. We'll just point you
Oh,
towards
there you go. That's
nice.
nice. Yes, you also are wearing your OU jacket. Good job,
I am,
man.
yes.
Right on.
I have that
And
going.
how about the big dance, man? That's
I know.
great, right? I'm excited.
Me too. So my question is sort of like, recently I haven't been exactly happy with my writing, and how do you
Club.
yeah, I know. It's almost like I get to a certain point where I'd almost rather not write a story at all than write a bad one. And obviously I'm just going to give up. But
Yeah.
how do you find that you deal with, I mean, criticisms from outside, from other people are, I think, one thing, but criticizing yourself and being very self-critical is another. And how do you sort of deal with that and deal with that feeling of, just wanting to give up when you should be writing things to make yourself.
Right. This is a common feeling of anyone who accepts the great burden of this craft, embraces it, understands that there's a lot of romance about it that we tend to drink up, especially when you are younger. And it's easy to be hard on yourself because you read, Hunter Thompson or Shakespeare or Molly Ivins or and you name it, and you wonder, why am I, why can't I write like this? Well, let me tell you something. This is another deep, dark secret I'm going to let you in on. Writing is a middle-aged person's art. It is. You are not going to be a good writer until you turn 40, 35 if you're lucky. But the only way you become a good writer at 40 is because you are practicing every day. And yeah, 97% of it is going to be crap. And that's the way you power through it, Ryan. You tell yourself, I'm going to do my 1,000 words today, and 997 of them are going to be crap. And that's okay, because the thing that matters is the doing of it. The quality, you do that, the quality will absolutely follow. It really will. And I know it's hard because you stare at a blank screen, or, whatever your medium is. And it's terrifying. But I'm just telling you, there is no such thing as a bad draft. Or they're all shitty, they're all bad. I mean, Anne Lamott, who's a wonderful writer and a wonderful teacher, Anne, A-N-N-E, Lamott, L-A-M-O-T-T. Her marvelous book is called Bird by Bird. Everybody who calls himself or herself a writer needs it on your shelf and in your head. And she has a whole chapter called Shitty First Drafts. And she talks at great length about how a writer needs to give herself and himself permission to write a shitty first draft. Nobody writes a great first draft. Nobody. No one writes a great first draft. Everything you read has been through agonizing nights of exertion and rewriting. There's the expression, writing is rewriting, right? To me, the hardest work of writing is that shitty first draft, because you are, building the scaffolding, and it's hard to make sure you've got all the little wing nuts and locking washers, and and it's all falls apart, and then the cat jumps on it, and it's just gonna be like that. It just is. I'm just telling you, it is. And other people's criticism is fine. Your own criticism is simply going to keep you from practicing. So it's okay to be self-critical, but you're only doing that to keep you from practicing. And it's okay to spend an hour, however you do it. I get up at 5:45 every morning. I eat breakfast, and I'm in my seat here at, 10 of 7, I spend an hour and change. I'm working on a book proposal, so it's not going to get done if I just wish it into being. It happens because I sit here every day at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I work on it for an hour. And it's shitty. It's horrible. It's going to be bad. It's bad right now. But right now, I'm just, what am I saying? What is my story? What do I know about it? What am I learning from it? That's why it is the tidal force of writing, of being creative, is so overwhelming that you really do have to be about middle-aged before you start developing some command on it, because it is so powerful and so, it's like you're almost hyperventilating sometimes, because creation is such an incredible gas in your head. It's so fun. It's so exciting. And that's what makes the lows of creating so low, because the highs are so high. Because again, you're young, it's all new to you. But it's okay to be bad at it, and be glad to be bad at it. Really, it's okay. Nobody can play the Rachmaninoff No. 2 concerto without years and years and years of scales. Talk to your friends in the art world who are potters at OU and, do other kinds of stuff. That's part of the beauty of college is that you have 4 years to make your mistakes and then take those mistakes out into the world and be brave with them. Does that help?
It
Does
does.
that make
Yeah.
sense?
Thank you so
Okay.
much. I really appreciate it.
By the way, I am all on LinkedIn and Twitter. I'm not a TikTok or WhatsApp person because there's a threshold I gotta go through. But I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn, and so please. And I'm asaker@enquire.com. Do I have a business card here? I don't. So I'm at asaker@enquire.
I'll put it in the chat.
Okay, great. Thank you, Anna. And so please I love hearing from you all. Let me know how you're doing and where you're going. And, if you have a question, if I don't know the answer, which is going to be a lot, I will be happy to connect you with someone else. This is one of the benefits of being an old lady in journalism. I actually had a friend of mine who is out on the East Coast, and her son is in the Coast Guard Academy. He's a first year, and he's having kind of a tough time. And I actually know another friend of mine who works out in Portland, whose son also went through the Coast Guard Academy, first in his class. And so I got Julie out on the West Coast to get her son, Joe, to call Max, Barb's son, at the Coast Guard Academy. Not, in hopes that the old lady network is sort of like invisible, but I'm sure we're not. But I want to get this kid a little foundation under him so that he doesn't feel abandoned at a horrible place like the Coast Guard Academy. So that's what anyway, I didn't know why I got off on that subject, but anyway, and what else can I do for you all?
I have a question.
Okay, Emma Skidmore, what's up?
Hi. So you touched on this a little bit answering Ryan's question, but I was just wondering what your advice or tips were for kind of not comparing yourself to other writers or people in the field, because currently I'm in kind of a place where I feel like, I'm surrounded by people in journalism all the time and everything. And I feel like they're so much farther ahead than I am. So I have to remind myself that that's not always the case.
Right. Well, that's going to be kind of inevitable for a while, I'm afraid. It is. And your own advancement as a human being is going to be directly affected by your ability to tune that out. And just because you can't tune it out right now does not mean you're bad, doesn't mean you're wrong, it doesn't mean anything except, boy, it's really loud. And you will discover that at some point you can either listen to that or you can listen to you. And it will take some time for you to figure out where that is, because you don't know right now. You don't. The ground, you're sort of told that you're supposed to know by now, but you really don't know. So the ground is kind of soft underneath you. And that's why you have to be cautious about, well, is this person really saying that because they mean to hurt me? Or am I blowing this out of proportion? And here's another little secret. People don't think about you nearly as much as you think they do. They really don't. Most people that's actually one of the great benefits of journalism, because we do have to get out of ourselves. We do have to get out of our own heads. Not enough, probably not in the best possible ways, but that is an important step in journalism, is being able to get out of yourself and see the world for what it is. But as I'm saying, I know, Emma, it's really hard, and it's because you do read what others do, and you're kind of shocked. But you really are. Right now, you all are kind of at the same level. You're all, freshmen, sophomore, juniors. What year are you, Emma?
I'm a sophomore right now.
You're a sophomore. Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, you have 2 more years to do that. I'm going to give you 2 more years. You can do that for 2 more years. But once you finish, and however that long, if it takes 5 years, that's okay. But when you're done with that, and you need to dial that down, because that is an enemy. And so you can spend the next 2 years kind of figuring out what is the best tool for you to help dialing that down. Sometimes I don't at the moment, but when I do have a pool membership, I like to go do laps in the pool. because you are yourself in the pool. You might meditate. You might, I'm a believer in doing something physical. I know there's a great romance about drinking and smoking and doing drugs, and that's okay. And I'm not opposed to that, but I think it tends to short circuit your creative instrument in the long run. But again, I have a glass of wine now and then. I'm not a prude, but I think that it does tend to interfere with your ability to figure out, is this criticism true, or is it just my fear kicking me in the butt? And if it's my fear, then what is it really trying to tell me? So again, you can see a lot of this requires some psychological maturity that it's okay that you don't have right now. It really is. You're not supposed to have it. You will acquire it in time. It will come to you. And that's part of what I think sometimes that's part of what's so frightening about college, is because there is an expectation that you are fully formed. If you're in college, you're an adult. Once you're 18, you're an adult. And therefore, you get the keys to the kingdom and you're supposed to know everything. Well, you don't. No one does. Nobody does. College helps because you get a couple things that are helpful. You get to buy a OU t-shirt and but you also, you're learning like the tools of journalism, the basic tools of journalism, the basic law of journalism, the basic values of journalism. And you are going to take those out and see what that means when Emma projects them. When Emma takes all those good things through the goodness of Emma and she puts that out in the world, what is that going to look like? And pretty soon, once you get in the practice of doing that, what anybody else has to say about anything becomes meaningless. Because your light is the only one that matters. It will show for you what matters there. So, and again, it takes a lot of practice. It really does. It takes a lot of practice. I remember when my teacher, John Franklin, told me once, probably when I was around 40, that, congratulations, now you're going to finally learn the arts. And I thought, well, what the hell have I been doing for 20 years? And he said, yeah, you don't get it yet. And he was right. I think that you do need to kind of forgive yourself, I think helps a lot, Emma. Forgive yourself. And I think we don't hear that enough. It's okay. And especially, I admire all of you so much in doing what you're doing in this exceptionally difficult time. I think I don't know what I would be doing if I had to try and get my college degree via Zoom. I don't know. You guys, my hat's off to you, really. The courage that you're demonstrating. I know it feels like the world is crushing in on you, and for a time it will, because nobody knows what they're doing right now. Nobody knows how to get out of this. We're all going to just sort of stumble, get vaccinated and then stumble out of it somehow. That said, I think there will be an explosion of journalism, and there will be plenty of time and opportunity for do it. I think right now, Ryan, Emma, for all of you, I think the important thing is do all the things you know are right now. Make that last phone call. Even when, you don't really need to, do it anyway. Go find go through 10 documents just for the drill. Go knock on doors. When I covered courthouses every single day, I would start at the top floor and work my way down through all the courthouses every day. And, I didn't do it every day, but most days I tried to go top to bottom. And it was important because sometimes I got a good story, but also because people knew who I was and they could slip me a tip or, drop me a note or, they just know you're there. So that's what you do now, is practice all those skills. Learn another language, learn another language, learn another language. Get good at Excel. I know you, and you may never, ever, ever say, I got into journalism because I'm not good at math. That doesn't count anymore. If I were ever an editor and I heard a reporter say that, I would fire you on the spot. You don't get to be bad at math anymore. You just don't. That stopped a long time ago when Excel became an integral part of journalism. So much journalism of the coronavirus pandemic has been data journalism. I'm sure you've noticed that. So much of it is driven in all of the government agencies that have been very slow to, dial up and throw the technology at the problem that they needed to 10 years ago. We're now getting caught up. And I'll give you an example. As part of my coverage, I wrote about the flu every year. And of course, everybody ignored me because they don't, no flu shot, who cares? And I always wanted to try and find out how many flu shots were given every year. So I thought, well, how hard can that be? You flip a switch and, it's an Excel spreadsheet. Well, the CDC for years would only do it on one day a year. They would release the number of flu shots given and compare it with previous years. Well, now, thanks to COVID, because we're tracking everything day by day, I can now get a week-over-week summary of how many flu shots are being given in the United States. And guess what? We gave out 20 million more flu shots to people 80 and over in the United States since the beginning of the flu season. And that's a story. So, and unless you have a facility, all right, you don't have to do every Excel spreadsheet, but you should be able to figure out how to do math on it, and you should figure out how to do a pivot table. And if you want to leave the higher order stuff to the nerds, that's okay. But you should be able to do basic stuff for your daily report. How many Black citizens in Cuyahoga County in the 2010 census? You ought to be able to find that kind of data very quickly. So make friends with math. I don't care what it takes. Find some 17-year-old who got the high score in Doom or whatever. Go figure out math, and I promise you, your life in journalism will be much easier when you can do that. Figure out how to do percentages. That's a basic. So that would be, so there's that. What else can I do for you? Oh my God, it's almost 9 o'clock. Come on, the bars are open, woo! Oh wait, you're not in Athens. I sort of feel like we should be in Athens.
I have a
Okay.
question.
Sure.
What do you do, or what advice do you have for when you have a story that you really want to write and you think it's a good angle, but sources aren't responding to you or won't talk to you, or you get hung up on, because that happened to me this week. So I just and that's happening to me right now. I don't know where to take this story, but I still want to write it. It's what advice
Okay.
do you have for that?
Do you have a news peg? Do you have a
No.
news peg? Do you have a
I
news
don't know what
peg?
that is.
Say what?
I don't know what that is.
Okay, a news peg is some connection to a news event, whether local, national, state, some news peg that you would hang the story on. Or is it a feature story about a profile, or I think I need a little more than that. The story that you want to do.
Oh, mine is literally just about this bar that got closed down because it was a foundational issue, but for some reason they don't want to talk to me even though it's not that deep.
Okay.
So I
all
just
right.
but even then sometimes stories are more deep and people just don't want to talk to you, but it's important to get told. So sort of.
What do you
in
know
those
about the building?
situations.
What do you know about the building?
The building was it was against a hotel, and then they took down the hotel, and then the side of the building bowed out. So it's
Okay, but I
a
mean,
structural
who
issue.
owns it?
I know
You
the
know-
owner. I talked to him, but the people who the tenants won't talk to me about anything, even though the owner did.
Because
They just don't want to because
Okay,
it's nothing's
sometimes-
finalized.
okay, sometimes you have to break a story into pieces.
Yeah.
If you've got the owner, then do the owner story. And then somebody will see the story in the paper and they'll say, oh, you need to know this. And they might call you. At the very least, you'll have a story in the paper so that when you start doing follow-ups, you can say, but I've already started covering the story, right? So you might talk about, you might talk to all the other people who were within the building or who were around the building, the neighbors, the other building owners around it. So I would start there. I would get all, I would see, so is it really a foundational issue? Okay.
That's what the owner says, but the
Okay,
tenants don't want
so-
to talk.
All right, so can you go to like the county engineer?
I contacted him and he will not respond to my emails or phone calls.
Who's his boss?
I don't know.
Okay,
I need to
so
find
find
that
out who
out.
his boss is. He find out who his boss is and send that boss a note saying, I've been trying to talk to this guy for a couple days and he won't call me back. And these are my questions. And sort of poke him a bit. Okay, so start there. Are there any lawsuits involving the building?
I haven't, like, not that the owner would talk about, but one of
Okay,
the
go to the
one of the
courthouse.
tenants said it's in the court, so there could
Okay,
possibly be something
All right,
there.
if you've got the owner's name, then go to the courthouse and start doing a search on him and on the building. Is the building in a company, in a shell company?
I think he just owns it
He
separately.
just owns it? Okay, so start doing some legal work on who he is. Foundation issue, that's very interesting.
I find it interesting because it's been an issue since 1970, he said, but like, why? I asked him, what about 2021, like, makes it, like, important? And he was like, it's just dangerous. And I was like, well, yeah, but like.
Okay, so who would inspect a building like that?
I think it was probably an inspection, but I think it was the code guy who I reached out to the director of the code, like, in
Okay,
Athens. And
all
he
right,
also
I
has a
would figure out if there's a code issue here. And if that building has had a problem since 1970, that's a great story. And they
Yeah.
finally shut it down. That's a great story. But you may have to take it in pieces. You may not be able to do a big bite. You may just have to
Yeah.
do, here's what the owner says, and then you do a story about here's the lawsuits involved, and then you do another story about, here's what the code reports say. You might just have to do it in pieces like that. And then at some point you might get a news angle that would allow you to kind of put the whole story together. So just take it one story at a time right now.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Sometimes you have to do it that way. Okay, what else? What else can I do for you?
I have a question.
All righty.
Oh, sorry.
Gryffindor.
Whoever can go. All right, sorry. I didn't know how to change my name, so it's just my my email. But
Okay.
so for my class, for one of the work papers I need to write, I need something called a FOIA request. I don't know if you know what that is.
I don't.
FOIA. Okay. Then never
Oh,
mind.
FOIA. Okay, you made it FOIA. Great. That's great. What did you do?
No, I haven't done it yet, but
Okay.
I'm doing a story about overcrowding in public schools. So I was wondering, for FOIA requests, do you usually need to go like more broad to get a request, or like something like, or like, I don't know, like for FOIA requests, do you know if like it's something more broad, or is it something like more like, I guess, central? Like,
That's actually a really good question, because there's a lot of debate within among journalists about how to do a FOIA that would be most effective. And so every agency has a slightly different approach. So do you know what the agency wants in a FOIA request? Have they told you?
no, it's my teacher said that I should do that if I wanted to get information about school population and how many students are currently in a building compared to the limit that they're supposed to have.
Okay. And this would be in Athens County?
No, this would be I am from Baltimore, so I'm doing it for Baltimore County. But there's a Board of Education, so I was assuming I just do that.
I would probably see if there is a director of communication for the Board of Education.
They have like a head chair. I don't know if that is the same thing.
Well, I mean, the chair is probably the chairwoman of the Board of Education. I'm just trying to suggest that if you find if there's like a spokesperson or a director of communication, and you call that person and you can say, here's the information that I want. Can you get it to me? Or can I have it in some way? And the information may be public about how many students are in a school. That might be public information.
Yeah, but I kind of want to get like a past like record of like 10 years. So I don't know if
They might have 10 years.
all right. Well,
I think you need to call, I think you might, that seems like pretty basic I don't think you need to file a FOIA on that one. I think you can probably call the director of communication at the school board or at the school district and see what they have. And they probably have probably on a website somewhere.
all right. Well, thank you.
Sure. Good luck.
Hi, I have a question.
Okay, Ashley Beach, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
So sometimes I find so I cover sports and I'm like going to try to get into news, but sometimes I find because a lot of the content I have to churn out is repeated, very repeated. It gets monotonous at times. And
That's for sure.
I'll go through weeks where I'll like put out a lot of content and then I'll just I'll burn myself out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
How do you avoid burnout?
Oh boy. It's hard because journalism is the kind of business that really will use you up if you let it. Be glad to use you up. And I'm not being, I don't think I'm not being mean. I'm just telling you it's a fact. They will. And it's not that they're mean. It's just that that's just the way things are, and they will use you up. So you have to be the monitor of your time. I think it is extremely important to keep in mind that a professional is a person who is paid for her time. So if you sit down and you give them 10 hours, but you're only getting paid for 8, well, who's the fool? So you need to find, in addition to learning a language and getting good at Excel, you should have a hobby. And I know that sounds kind of nutty, but I think having a hobby, and I mean something really wacky. I mean, maybe you run marathons, or maybe you raise golden retrievers, or maybe you are a watercolorist. I just started throwing pottery a few years ago because I took a class at OU, and I have forever been upset that I didn't become a ceramic artist because I love it. But I've been doing pottery now, and it has been a lifesaver. A real way to recharge that doesn't have anything to do with journalism, but forces me to use my hands and my mind in a new way. And I think in sports it's hard because there is a lot of repetition. That's kind of what people like about it. There's always a game. There's always a game. There's always a game. There's always a game. And that's why I think it's kind of like, on the other hand, if you're a city hall reporter, you're going to all the city hall meetings and all the finance committee meetings, and then believe me, that is no day at the beach. Next time you go, Ashley, the next time you can't go to an Athens City Council meeting and try and stay awake, right? Just because I think it would be good for you to see, well, how does the other half live? If I were a city reporter, what would I be doing? Oh, this is what I'd be doing. And I think now's a good time for you to sort of dip in and explore what would be interesting to you. I mean, there's probably, I wonder, since you're a sports reporter, maybe there's some Title IX stuff that you could write about that walks the line between sports and news, which would be very interesting. And again, it's hard because you're not on campus, and it's hard to, interview people. And boy, I tell you, that's a tough thing. But I think the thing to do is make sure that if the work is repetitive, make sure your outside life is stimulating. And if your outside life is repetitive, make sure your work is stimulating. So it's hard to balance all these things. It's hard to make all these things work. I'm not saying I've mastered it at all. I'm just saying I've had more practice at it. So I feel like I've had a little more, I've realized over the years what was not good for me, what did not serve me, what did not make me excellent. That is not in my life if I can keep it out of my life. So I think you all need to understand that you are all excellent and you are young. So you mix the excellence and the youth, and you figure out, what is that going to mean? How is that particular package going to see the world? And be okay with stumbling around for a while until you get to where you feel like, oh, this is solid ground. This is where I want to be. And it might be the family beat. It might be cops and robbers. It might be sports. It might be something else. But it's okay to experiment right now. In fact, you should. You should go sit in on the court. Spend a day in the courtrooms in Athens County or wherever you are. Just go spend a day in the courthouse. That will open your eyes, believe me. So I wish I could tell you to go spend a day at the hospital, but they're kind of touchy about that these days. So what else can I do for y'all? Anna, I think we may have finally run them out.
Can I finish us off with one last question, and then we can let everybody go? So one of the things I know, the Post, for the last couple of years, the editors have been very much, we need to make sure that we're telling different stories, and we're empowering different voices, and we're bringing that diversity into our reporting.
Right.
And I think one of the things that I love about storytelling and that I love about interviewing people and writing is that, you get to talk to people whose experiences are very different than yours.
Yes.
And I think we're at a very interesting and pivotal time in terms of how we tell stories from diverse communities and how we empower those voices. And I guess as a reporter, I always felt like I had probably more power than I should have to decide, what stories got told and how the tone and kind of just like who I was lifting up and who. So I guess I wondered if you could talk, especially since you do so much with health, and I think right now COVID is really showing how, the color of your skin and your socioeconomic background, and if you have a disability, like all of these things affect your health and the way you get to live your life. And so I guess what I'm trying to ask is, a lot of us, for better or worse, are middle class, straight, white people. Yeah. How do we tell those stories and think about those decisions of what stories we're telling in a way that actually is doing some good and being productive? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. This is absolutely part of the challenge I have had to meet myself the last few years. And I look back over my career and I am not proud at my efforts at diversity and representation. I think I could have been better at it. I think we all could be better at it, but I know for sure I could be better at it. And it's the good thing is that you are now aware of it and it is on your radar. And the very fact that it is on your radar is going to make it blip more often, and you will see opportunities. Sometimes my writing teacher liked to say that the best stories are the ones that come to you. I think you need to make sure that your circle of people that you know, and I don't mean your circle of friends, I mean your sources are diverse. There's got to be somebody that you know who's involved in the African American Studies Department, or who is an artist or a writer or a singer or somebody who isn't you, who doesn't look like you, that you should befriend and get to know and have that person teach you, like, what do I need to know? Not that you have to ask that person to educate you, but just be friends, learn, how can I educate myself? What do I need to do to educate myself? Where am I going? And I think that it is the fact that we are aware and in touch with it is what's going to make us enlightened, make our selections of stories enlightened. And Anna, because this is now on your radar, you're going to make smarter choices about who you're going to be aware. Is this a representation of my community and not just a reflection? And that's what makes us better. And you will be, now that you're aware of it, you're going to meet people. You're going to be deliberative about it. And then it will become second nature. But again, takes practice. Like everything else. Anything else, gang? Bobcats?
Well, a little shameless plug for Anne and for our upcoming virtual reunion, because if you loved hearing from her as much as I have, you will have the chance to hear from her again on Saturday the 27th at our virtual reunion. We are still asking people to register for that. It is free, but we want to make sure that we have the right Zoom account to accommodate everybody. So Caitlin was kind enough to post the registration link in the chat, as well as the evaluation that we would love for you guys to take a few minutes to fill out. Very quick, we just want to get some feedback on these. This is the first time we've ever done something like this. We're hoping that next year we will all be able to hang out in Athens together during our reunion. But
Amen.
yes, because yeah, I don't know about you guys, but yeah, the Instagram photos are calling to me, and I'm struggling with not eating Bagel Street and drinking Donkey, and
Amen.
even I feel I'm not super sad about Red Brick potential,
Whoop.
but yeah, I definitely feel like we want to be together in Athens. But until then, we
Amen.
are having our virtual reunion. We'll hear from Molly and just some updates on the post, but also a good way to hear from a lot of really impressive alums. So hopefully you guys can all come. And Anne, thank you so much for your time. This was amazing. A lot of fun.
My
Great
pleasure.
advice.
My
Yeah.
pleasure. So
Yeah,
happy to
that was
see you
great.
all.
I know, thank you. And yeah, students, feel free to, reach out to any of us. I was the one that sent out the email earlier. Anna and Tristan both copied on it. Anne's info's in the chat, Feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn, shoot us emails, anything you want. For those of you who are going to be going to new cities, even if you're going in person, let us know. We know a lot of alumni in a lot of cities, so we can always connect you with people there. We can connect you with them ahead of time so you can get a feel for the city, housing.
Right.
You can, people. The nice thing about, don't be like over intimidated by some people's titles and what they've done in their careers, because everyone that I know involved with the post is more than welcome to bend over backwards, drop everything to help a fellow postie. It doesn't matter if you're on TV or writing for a national publication, people are, we're all very much down to earth when it comes down to it and just willing to help out. And so that's why we're here. So I really like that even though we can't all be together, I feel that these sessions have helped us kind of connect with you guys a little bit more. So just our little plug for the Alumni Society that we're here for you. So